Simple. And today I want to talk about something that's near and dear to all of us, how to get rich. It's simple, but it's not easy. And before I really get started, um, this is a broadcast where I talk about everything to do with business, anything to do with business, from mindset nutrition to wellness to, and that's a big part of it, to bookkeeping, accounting, payroll, and tax, because that is what I do for a living. So I want to kind of cover all that. And if you enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. We're doing some experimenting today to see how this works. Since I'm not in marketing, I don't keep up with all the latest trends, but I am trying to improve my videos. So I'd love your feedback on that. How to get rich? Well, most people get rich doing the same thing, and the internet has done a lot to make it very, very easy for the common person to accumulate wealth. A lot of this has to do with mindset, which is why I'm going to be talking about that quite a bit in many of my videos, but I really want to talk about the mechanics of it. It's really pretty simple. Number one, have a product or service that there's a market for. Um, I do not recommend making your product or service coaching if you are not already successful. The reason for that is that people are starting to catch on. They're starting to see these guys and they're leaning up against Lambos and they're like posing with McLarens and they're posing in front of these beautiful big homes, and people are starting to catch on that that's not really where it's at. Not that we don't all like these things, but just because I'm posing with a McLaren or a Lambo or a big house or a fancy pool doesn't even mean it's mine. It just means that I was able to get a camera in front of it. So people are starting to, I think, view that and see how do I put this? They're starting to look at that and have a little bit more skepticism. So unless you are already successful, I do not recommend becoming a coach. Now, if you are successful or you're doing like I do, I'm not already successful. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I love sharing my journey with you. And that is just because I'm hopeful that some of the things that I talk about may actually help. Um, so have a product or service that there's a market for. Sometimes you have to create the market. Um, Steve Jobs was a whiz at this. I personally, and I've been following Apple since the 80s. So from the time they came up with their very, very first thing, I've been following computer science since the Commodore 64 days. Yes, folks, I know that dates me a lot. I remember when I was trying to get an analog modem, but my parents wouldn't let me get it. And they wouldn't let me tie up the phone. And I remember the handshake sound when dial-up was a thing, and I remember having DSL. So I'm really excited about the internet. Um, Here's where, okay, number one, have a product or service people want to buy. Things that they will actually give you money for. And something, if you're going to sell coaching of any kind, make sure you're already successful in that field. I don't sell coaching because I don't really have a coaching package to sell. And I have a little bit more work that I feel like I need to do before I can really say, do things my way. But I am happy to share my journey, and I do that for free. Second, decide who your niche is. And this kind of goes hand in glove with the other one. Decide if you have a product, and by the way, products are easier to sell than services. The reason for that is services are limited to your time, or even you and your team's time. Products are a little bit easier to sell, but it has to be something that people want. Now, you can create that market. Steve Jobs was fantastic at that. I can't really say nobody had thought of the iPhone before him, but he refined it. And he generated a lot of interest in a smartphone because of the way he presented it, because of the way he was kind of doing things. He did not invent the personal computer, but he was able to make it not really even accessible, because Apple products are much more expensive than Windows products. But he was able to kind of create a market for something that did exist. Bill Gates actually went on record and said he didn't ever think that there was going to be a PC in every home. back in the 80s. He said that. He did not see a future where there was going to be a computer in every home. And today, just in my office, which is just my home office, I have I have four in my office, and that's not what's counting what's in my boyfriend's office. So, um, you can actually create demand. If you understand what people want, you can create demand, and that's really important to realize. The second thing is do the math. What do you need to do to make $1 million? Well, if you have $1 million product, you need to sell one of those. If you have something with $1 million markup, you need to sell one of those. Or you can sell 10 things at $100,000 a piece. There's a limited market for that, so it's a good thing you don't have to sell very many of them. Or you can sell 1,000,000 things at $1 a piece. And this is your markup. This is not necessarily even your price. You need to kind of do some math and figure out what your break even is and how many widgets or services you need to sell to make $1 million in profit. Okay. So that's first, decide on something. Second, discover if you have a market and if you can create a market for it. Like I said, Apple is fantastic at that. Next, do the math. How many of these things do you need to sell? Well, if you're going to price them at $20 a piece, how many of them do you need to sell? 500,000, 50,000. Let's figure. You need to sit down and figure that out. Then you need to figure out how to create it. Okay. And all of this, by the way, is going to sound really, really easy. And it's simple. It's simple when we talk about it. It's a bit more challenging in execution. So, and the final thing is make sure you have multiple streams of income. And that is a huge one. But a big deal of it has to do with your mindset. I'm going to go into mindset in other videos later on because I'm still listening to the book that I'm really interested in. But really, with the advent of the internet, wealth creation has become unbelievably accessible. I've talked before about my parents' business in Seattle. We owned Dad owned a pest control business in the 70s in Seattle, and they did fantastic. They made a lot of money doing that. He knew the market because he had worked for the health department for several years prior to that. He has a master's degree in entomology, of all crazy things to get a master's degree in. I still laugh at this. I'm really thankful, by the way, for shows like, I think it's Criminal Minds. It's not Criminal Minds. Now I can't think of the name of it. Set in Las Vegas, and they had a forensic entomologist on staff, and I have completely forgotten the name of it. If any of you guys remember, let me know. Crime scene investigations. That's it. And one of the things I really liked about it was that they did have an entomologist on staff to talk about forensic entomology, which is a really a big deal. And one of my dad's friends is in that field. But my dad and his colleagues are literally the only entomologists I've ever met. So if you don't know, entomology is the study of insects. And I'm forever thankful he didn't go into his first love, which was herpetology, which would have been the study of snakes. And I don't like snakes. Anyway, because he was an entomologist, and we had already lived in Seattle for a while, and he worked for the Seattle King County Health Department all through the 70s. He had the background that he needed to be able to tell people ahead of time, you have carpenter ants. This is what they can do to your house. You have termites. This is what they can do to your house. You have fleas. This is what it can do to your animal. So he already had a lot of background in this. And this is where I think a lot of people forget. You need to know what you're talking about, or you need to be humble enough to be able to say you don't know everything. And I think it's fine to say that I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I can certainly give you my thoughts on it, and I can find out more. I personally appreciate that level of humility in people. But not everybody likes that, and you do have to have a really solid background in whatever it is that you want to sell. So if you decide, I love to read books and that's all I want to do for a living, well, then figure out maybe a way to become a proofreader. You could reach out to self-publishing houses and offer your services as a proofreader and editor. That would be one way to make money doing that. And then that becomes a business you can grow. But you need to have something that people are willing to pay you to do. And you need to have enough of a background in it to make you the expert. Now, going to one of my very favorite movies, which is Catch Me If You Can. The main character in that movie, and I am such a dork. My brain does not work the way it should have been. Also, my eyes don't work the way I would like them to. Frank Abagnale. Frank Abagnale actually taught at Brigham Young University, where I went to college when I was a kid. And he was a professor. And he was able to teach because all he had to do was stay a chapter ahead of his students. Now, if you're able to do that and you're able to anticipate what's coming up and stay a chapter ahead, great. That's all you need to do. You need to know a little bit more than your market. But you also need to make sure that you understand what your market is. And this is where market research really comes into play. Also, you need to have some sort of background in what you're doing, or you need to be able to learn it very, very quickly. Both of these things are kind of a challenge. You have to be smart enough to be able to keep up with your group. You have to be able to think ahead about what their questions are going to be if you're going that direction. Or you can sell a product. Products, here's one of the things I hear a lot. I hear a lot about the market is saturated. I heard that, of course, I live in Utah, where Young Living essential oils and doTERRA essential oils are very big here. And the MLM is a very popular way of marketing a lot of products. And I hear this a lot. The market is saturated. I hear this from my Amazon clients. They just kind of give up. Well, here's the deal. This is the third thing you need to know. What is your unique selling proposition? I have a number of them for my own business. One of them is the way we do quality control. We are just now implementing it. It is a pain in the neck. I'm the one that has to do the quality control right now. It does add a lot to my workload, but it is a tremendous selling point that sets me apart from all the other bookkeepers out there. Number one, I have a master's degree in accounting. And I've been working in the accounting field for over 20 years. So that gives me a step up. Not just that I've been working in the field, but also that I have the master's degree. So I have the education of a CPA. Now, I haven't done the internship. I feel like I'm too old for that at this point. And I haven't passed the exam. I haven't even taken the exam. But that's something I'm looking at in the future, just to see if I can pass it. But I can safely say I have the education and I can do almost anything a CPA can do. There's a couple of things I cannot do, but for the most part, we can. Accounting's weird. You don't have to have you don't have to be a CPA to practice accounting. You don't have to have any credentials at all to practice public accounting. So it's a bit weird in that it's the only profession of the three major ones that allows that. You cannot practice medicine without a medical license. You cannot practice law without passing the bar. But you can, however, practice accounting without being a CPA or an EA. So there, and yet the CPA exam is the hardest one of the three. So the fact that I do quality control by itself gives me a selling point. It's proactive. We don't wait for the client to do this. We also have appointed meeting with the client fairly frequently because we want the client to be informed about their money. Most accountants don't do that. So what is your unique selling proposition? If you're offering a service, what can you offer that nobody else offers or very few people offer? By the way, as an accountant where I'm doing these videos and I'm trying to get information out and I'm sharing my journey, that by itself makes me pretty unique in the field. Most accountants don't do that. There happens to be a shortage of accountants, not just CPAs, but anyone that wants to go into accounting. And the other thing that I do that's unique is I'm a bookkeeper with a CPA's education. And what that means is, again, I have the education to be able to do a lot of things for my clients that a CPA is not willing to do because they consider it too small, and that most bookkeepers don't know how to do. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of what I call kitchen table bookkeepers. They go through some certification course. They maybe learned how to use QuickBooks, but they don't understand the accounting principles underlying it. Or they don't have the discipline to do this week after week, month after month, year after year. And they figure out pretty quickly that running a business is much more difficult than they think it should be. And then they get out. And then I get a call that says, I can't get a hold of my bookkeeper and I need someone who is going to be there. So I have a real business with a real website and a real team, and we're growing, and it's registered with the state. And I've done all these things to make sure that that I have this upper hand when it comes to bookkeeping and accounting. That yes, I can do bookkeeping. Yes, I'm happy to do bookkeeping. I have a staff that does the bookkeeping, and I do quality control behind the scenes to make sure everything's correct. And I care about my clients, and those are big things that I think are set me apart. Your mileage may vary. Okay, so if you are selling a product, by the way, don't be like Boeing. You need to make sure that your product has, meets your quality expectations, meets your customers' quality expectations. Then, once you have a product, once you've determined your market, once you've picked your niche, if you want one, mine is just small businesses, but pick your niche, and it can be as small or as large as you like. I know, you can talk to your marketing experts about that. Then it's time to start marketing. Well, no, then it's time to develop your tech stack. How are you going to keep track of your customers? How are you going to make sure that you can actually fulfill your promises? This is really challenging, and it's especially challenging for me personally. I have a tendency to overpromise. I'm trying to do better with that. I'm trying to tell people I need, X number of days lead time if you need a lot of work done. But I really want to make my clients happy, so I have a tendency to overpromise. You want to underpromise and overdeliver. So if I tell a client your work is going to be done in 2 weeks and I get it done in a week, I look like a hero. If I tell the client your work is going to be done in 2 weeks and it's done in 2 weeks, they're still happy. But if I tell them it's going to be done by Monday and it's the following Monday, they don't like that, understandably. So make sure that you have your tech stack, your CRM, your email, your website all set up and SEO optimized. This is all part of your marketing plan. And then determine what your marketing plan is going to be. Digital products are really easy to sell. But again, if you're going to write a book, make sure it's about things that people actually want to know about. It can certainly be about your own story. If you've had a really interesting life, you can be about your own story. But again, pick something to sell that people are willing to pay for. And then now you can start your marketing. Again, you need to make sure you know if you're doing a service, you need to think about how many people can I serve myself? How many people can I serve and still work on the business, as opposed to in the business? So for myself, I have to think about how many clients can I take for which services, that will leave me enough time to do the quality control, to do tax returns during tax season, and to do other things that I as a CEO am the only one that can do. And how much am I going to lean on my staff? I also have to determine how much can I pay my staff and how many clients do I expect them to serve. So kind of a general idea of how many hours I want them to work on each client. We do fixed rate pricing, so I do have a pretty good idea of how long it should take to work on a client, and then we work based on that. Now, the internet has made it massively possible for anybody who's willing to put in the work to make as much money as they want. When my dad owned his pest control business in Seattle, we had to pay several $1,000s for I think it was a full page ad in the Yellow Pages. I can't remember if it was a full page or quarter page, but we had a full page ad in the Yellow Pages, and there was actually almost no point in even starting the business before the phone book came out. If you're under 30, this is in the dark ages. We used to have all of the phone numbers in a book, and you'd have to look it up. And the Yellow Pages was sorted by service or product. So you would look up pest control, and you would find a full page ad for Harris Pest Control. And that was our advertising. The rest of it was word of mouth. So as you're doing your advertising, again, you've got to keep in mind and budget for and think about, how much do I need to spend on marketing? What's my client acquisition cost? This is why having a good accountant is so important. What's my client acquisition cost? How much does it cost me to get a client? If I'm doing pay-per-click, how many clicks do I have to pay for before I get a paying client? And then the last thing you need to do is adjust. Okay, so you need to adjust. Now, there's one other thing that the wealthy do that most people don't. The wealthy have multiple streams of income. Well, what do I mean by that? Most people think, well, it's a side hustle. I'm going to run business A over here, and then I'm going to DoorDash in the evening. That's a start, but that still requires all of your time. So you want to come up with things that create a second and third and fourth stream of income that don't require your time. By way of example, let's say I go and I start a dump truck company. Some things about me: I don't have a CDL. I have no interest in driving a dump truck, but I can hire people to drive dump trucks, and I can come up with I can put out the capital. That's some of the things you need to think about, and then I can hire people to drive the trucks, and then I can bill for my time or for my truck's time, usually based on the going rate, and I can then leverage that into a stream of income, just like I do with my accounting. I have staff that do a lot of the bookkeeping, and I leverage their time to make more money. So one stream of income is my accounting company. Another one might be a dump truck company. A third one might be, the stock market, but you only want to do that later down the line. It could be selling a book. It could be developing digital content. There's a lot of things, but you want to have multiple streams of income. Now, how do you do that? A lot of people will think, well, I'll start 5 businesses at once. No. You start one. You work on it until it runs itself. And I do recommend you listen to people who have been highly successful. That can include me, but right now, that's not me. I am not highly successful at my business. I'm getting there. I am successful, but I'm not where I want to be. So you find mentors. And by the way, one of the ways of finding a mentor, I've turned down coaching clients because I don't have a coaching program. I don't know yet how I want to market that. And I don't know yet. I want to have things kind of set up before I start taking coaching clients. The reason for that is I don't want to feel unprepared. Okay, so I have a bookkeeping business. I have a tax return business. And the coaching is going to be the third one. So as you grow your businesses, and these are all related to accounting, so as you grow your businesses, you may choose to stay within your circle of influence, your core competencies, or you might branch off, like I mentioned, with having, maybe having a dump truck and hiring someone to drive it. That would be a way of kind of branching off into something entirely different. But if you look at the major businesses and you look at the very, very successful people, I guarantee you that Jeff Bezos' income all comes from Amazon, right? But Amazon's income isn't what it used to be. Amazon is now a tech company. They sell books. They provide a platform for other people to sell their products. So that's two streams of income. They sell their servers. That's 3. They sell Amazon Prime Video. That's 4. So they have a number of streams of income within the Amazon infrastructure, so to speak. They also pay people to do their advertising for them. So you can become an affiliate and you can post products that you like on Pinterest or on your website or whatever, and you can get paid for that. So they sell advertising. So that's 5 streams of income. Now, within, like I said, within accounting, I have bookkeeping. I have actual higher level accounting. I could sell controller services. I could sell advisory services. Those would all be different streams of income. I can sell tax preparation. So those are streams of income within accounting. I can sell a coaching program to teach people how to become a bookkeeper or an accountant or how to do taxes. So those are additional streams of income. So there's, none of these are developed yet, but there's a number of things I can think of off the top of my head that I know that there's a demand for because people have asked me for it. I could write a book about my life. People have asked me to do that. So kind of think about what it is that you bring to the table. Now, the other big thing is you have to have the right mindset. If you feel like I am good for $30 an hour and no more, then you will be good for $30 an hour and no more. And you will be nothing more than an employee. And if that's really what you want, that's great. But I do believe that the internet has made things much more democratic than it used to be. So it doesn't cost thousands of dollars to get an ad. And by the way, thousands of dollars in 1980 money is a lot of money. So there's a number of things that you can do, and I do recommend using the power of the internet to expand your reach. This is how you create wealth. You create value for other people. And this is what I firmly believe. I believe that if I create so much value for other people that they're willing to pay me, the more people I help get what they want, the faster I will get what I want. And if that's your attitude and mindset, then you will be wildly successful. We're going to go into mindset a little bit more in later videos, and I don't want to take up too much time in this one, so I'm going to go ahead and end. But that's really how you get rich. In a nutshell, it is simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. And if you believe you can do it, and we'll talk about that, we'll talk about paradigms and a bunch of other things. I have a lot on my mind today. Then you can do it. And with that, have a great weekend.